Welcome to Kim Talks Books. I'm Kim Hayden, your host. As we step into the quiet spaces between the lines, focusing on the vibrant author's journey, we'll explore the dedication, the inspiration, and the unique perspectives that these authors bring to their craft, offering listeners the profound reader's reward of discovering fresh narratives. So settle in because our literary adventure with tomorrow's acclaimed writers begins now. All righty. Welcome to the show, Kim. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, this is kind of like a Kim squared today. So you get double the fun, double the entertainment today. And speaking of double, I want to dive right in to your author's journey, but you're like, what is the word for nine? Right? So not double. So you don't have double the author's journey or triples the author's journey. What is the word for nine? Do you know what the word for nine is? We'll have to look that up afterwards. So, but
Don't know.
tell us a bit about your author's journey.
I like many people probably that are listening to your show. You know, a lot of people talk about writing a book. They have an idea, it's been in their head for years, or one day, someday they live in that world. I was actually the opposite. I was never going to write a book. And what was interesting, I will talk, but I will not write. And so what was interesting was the minister at our church actually wrote a book. And I thought it was really interesting. It was the very first book. And he brought the person that he wrote under, if you will, to church that day. The gentleman flew in. His name's Tom Bird. He flew in from Sedona, Arizona. And he decided to go ahead and conduct a 2.5 hour workshop. So I didn't have plans after church. And I went over to the center to take the retreat. And so remember, I walked in, I'm not writing a book. I walked out 2.5 hours later saying, I'm writing a book. I know exactly what it's going to be on. I know the title of it, and I'm going to sign up for this retreat. And literally the rest is history. And I can really remember when that book first came out, I couldn't even imagine that I did that, number one. And number two, I felt uncomfortable in the very beginning about saying I'm an author. But now I've written 9 books. I feel very comfortable saying I am an author. And I'm so proud of the work. But what I found is I love the research. I think it's fascinating. I love learning. I will always be in a class or learning something. And to me, that was the opening to see something different for myself to become that author.
Amazing. What was the name of the first book?
Did I say never?
And why did that resonate with you on that day?
Many things. Number one is if any of us think about the audience, if they're listening, that one of the things to think about is when have you said in your life, I am never going to, and how did that turn out? Uh, or kind of the reason or the inspiration, if you will. And the truth of the matter is, I said it's my personal story. So it's my personal story about being a stepmother to he was 6 at the time, a special needs young man who is blind, mentally retarded, doesn't speak, doesn't walk, and so on and so forth, needs 24-hour-a-day care. And what I said was, I'm never marrying a man that has 2 children or children of any kind. But anyway, and what was interesting is that 32-year journey, and he is still alive and he's well. His name is Brooks. And it's really about me telling about the journey, not only as a stepmother, but also what we as a couple went through to make sure that we could give him the best quality of life. And the reason I wrote it is if I could have one family, just one, I would be happy because babies, even as great as medical technology is today and doctors are, babies don't always come home perfect. And what happens is, as a parent, I can only assume you're super excited and you have all these dreams and wishes for your baby. And then you come home and it's not as described. And so how do you probably go through a lot of emotions. One is shock. And then what do I do now? And the what I do now is really helpful because now you start to ask questions and learn. That for me, it was almost better, truthfully, being a step parent because I can be just a little bit more objective in a situation and kind of step back and say, okay, what can we do? But, my husband and I, we would play a game called We Don't Know. We don't know anything about this at this moment. And that's where you really can get innovative and creative. Because if you come from knowing, like, I think I know what to do, you kind of lose options out there. And that's kind of how I see my life anyway. But for me, I was very, it's a tough story for my husband for sure, but it is definitely, I'm very happy with that book. And I look back at it and to see where Brooks was at 6 and where he is today, I'm just so proud of him. He'll never be the president of the United States. I don't have any disbelief about that. On the other hand, he's safe. He's happy, and that's what I can. Yeah.
You know what? I'm one of those moms. I have a pretty low bar. None of my kids are in prison, and they're all really good neighbors, so I'm happy. I am good. I raised, one son that's definitely through and through a capitalist. He owns everything from vending machines to copy trucks to everything. I have another son that is in trades, and I have a daughter who she's had so much medical challenges in her life that she just looks for stability. And she just wants that nice quiet life and doesn't, she looked at me one day and she goes, "Oh, mom, I don't take this the wrong way, but I'm not like you. I don't want to push. It's just not who I am. I just want quiet. I want, to be safe and such." But it's funny, I think you and my husband maybe had the same book on who you would and would not marry, because I met my husband in Vegas as a single mom with a toddler, and he was never going to date a girl with a kid. And guess what? Did we that right? No, never say never, did I ever say never? So let's talk about your book that you are doing now, that you just released. What's the name of that one again?
So it's called From Prison to Possibilities, Paving Your Path. And, it is a book and it's also a curriculum. So it's really a curriculum for people who are incarcerated to be able to work through that book with a mentor, a trained mentor by me, who goes through it. And it's about, I would just say, about 28 weeks in total from start to finish. But basically, we work on doing two things at once. And there are some really great programs across the United States in certain prisons. There are some prisons that have no programming. But what I really like about this is it actually accomplishes at least two goals. And the first goal is to be able to work on behavior. Um, First of all, because one of the things I think is for all of us, we all have blind spots. And so how can we kind of peek into those blind spots? And that's where a mentor can really come in and help you navigate that. Number one, we have a lot of activities. I am a leadership development coach. We have a lot of activities where I ask them in their homework, they read an article each week, a short article. They have a set of questions that they answer, and then they come to their mentorship meeting being prepared to have a dialogue about the content and how it really applies to their life. And we go A to Z, so that's 26 weeks right there. And there's a piece in the beginning about expectations, of course, and getting to know you because these guys don't know each other. And at the very end, so what's also integrated is a career development plan. So we start slowly in week 5. We start to take a look at finances and start that preparation process in addition to working on those behaviors and skills. So they have a robust plan, but a very practical, realistic outlook about how life is going to be when they are released. It's not a Pollyanna approach in any way whatsoever. I always say it's going to be so much harder on the outside than it currently is now. No matter how difficult it is being in prison, all these things are gonna come into play, and they have to be prepared for that. So, really kind of one of our letters is M for mindset, because if we start to change our mindset, a lot of great things happen. We start A with attitude, and, we always have a formal graduation after the fact. And so that is definitely a book I'm very proud of. It's actually the 2nd edition because I spent so much time in prisons learning and meeting fantastic people across the United States about prison reform. How it came about though is that my 3rd book is really my first published version of mentorship in the corporate world. And I had seen people be very unsuccessful in life. And it's really tragic to me because there are a lot of great people out there working and then they apply for a promotion and they don't get it. And then what happens next is, they don't always know. Many employers won't give feedback, which I highly encourage to give them feedback about what they can do, what was missing, and what can they work on. So the next time that an opportunity is posted, that they can go for it. What happens instead, though, is, and I've seen this over and over again, is that when people apply for something and they don't get it, then what happens is that self talk. It's never positive. And that self-talk goes, "They don't get me, it's too political here. I can't believe I didn't get all of that." But then the next thing that actually happens is your behavior follows your mindset.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree.
it becomes self-fulfilling. And to me, that's so tragic. And so some of that can be prevented if an employer, the interview panel, or whoever it is, goes back to that person and really gives them constructive feedback and just say, "It's not never, it's just not now. And now what you can work on are these things," because that was really the missing piece. And I think that sometimes, I don't know if it's because they're busy, employers are, or if simply it never occurred to them, or they feel uncertain about what to say. Maybe they didn't have some specific criteria to make that decision. Not sure. Then I think that's an opportunity for all employers to really take a look at how can we continue to provide feedback to be able to grow and develop our people. It's going to become more important in today's world with millennials and Gen Zs than ever before. So I say that, but I want to go back to prison to possibilities for just a minute. So programming is great. I mean, for a variety of reasons. There are many things that I'm proud of, that it's not really my program. I always say it's their program.
Yeah.
They map it the way they want it. And it's because of shared experiences. There's so much credibility with a mentor who's doing walking the same path with them, that they totally understand. And that trust is built much faster. The second thing, though, is, and we also did, this past year, we translated it into Spanish. So I have a Spanish version, and in Texas and in many states, that's very important today. And then the other thing I was thinking about, and so I have worked in now at 4 industries. So I started in hospitality, and so I have a pure love for the hospitality industry, particularly food service. And then I went into higher education for many years. And then after that, I went into healthcare. And obviously, I have my own business. But what's interesting, though, in all of that, they are very much connected. You may not think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, from a very this perspective, and in learning and development, all of that is kind of how these books came together, if you will, because I was able to take everything that I know and put it into something. And it's great. And I want to talk about the results of the program, but more specifically, one program is great. But what I really think is, when I look at a problem, I try to see how can I actually present a solution. So programming is great, and it actually, peer mentorship in prisons reduces recidivism about 40%. So that's pretty significant. Another thing that we do is we track rule violations, completion rates, of course, but rule violations. And so the men who have gone through my program in 3 states, Mississippi, Texas, as well as Florida, we track that. We've had 0 rule violations since they've started over the last several years, 3.5 years to be specific.
Wow.
It's amazing. And the reason that's amazing to me is it makes it safer for the staff, and it makes it safer for the inmates. And we are very low staffed.
But are they there's a buy-in though. There's a buy-in. Like they are coming in saying they want to be part of this. So
100%.
so before we jump into what's what is the reader's reward out of this book? Before we go there, a couple things I want to tap into that I know are a little I'm just curious. So the United States does have the highest incarceration per capita in any developed country in the world. And we know that when somebody goes into prison, they literally lose their autonomy. They lose job opportunity for the rest of their life, right? There's so many things that happen. What are some of the things that we're starting to see? Is there any opportunity of this maybe going to some of the youth facilities that these kids are they're literally one fork in the road away from prison? Or, and life is hard. It's hard. It's every day. I work 60 hours a week on average. I am working in a space that I love because what do I do for a living? I get to share stories of everyday heroes, the people that are building our communities from the ground up through podcasting. So I've got an awesome job. However, a lot of these young kids are lost. They're absolutely lost. They are either missing a parent in the home or they're in an area that has a crappy school because the taxation system doesn't equally share and provide for all the schools equally. There's somehow there's a deficit within their world because I don't think I've ever met a toddler that's learning how to speak that says, "When I grow up, I want to hit an old person over the head and steal their bag." I've never met somebody. I've never met a 5-year-old little girl saying, "When I grow up, I want to be a prostitute living on the streets." These people who I this is just me, and my husband says I'm a bit of a bleeding heart. I believe that 95% of human beings are good people, and they are just doing the best they can within sometimes very unfair or disadvantaged circumstances. So that would be my question. Question number one is, can a sister product or brother product to this be written for the juvenile offenders that are being held, but they still have potential of having their records expunged at 18?
So the short answer is yes. I would modify it a bit, just for them. What you're really raising is, this is a very complex problem.
It is.
And really what you're talking about is the beginning. And it's not even that's not where it begins, but let's just say that we'll take that audience for a moment. If we can do more prevention work. So there are some really interesting judges around the country who are innovative and who really believe that maybe there's another way. And some of those judges, instead of sending someone straight to prison because they're in trouble, that they will redirect them to a program, depending on what the problem happens, because everyone's very unique and not everybody needs the same thing. And then they will go through that program. And if they can prove out that they can actually change their life,
Yep.
then they can, instead of going to prison, they could wear an ankle monitor for their sentence or whatever it is and go back home. That's a win. Another thing that you talked about specifically is when someone is in prison, they face a lot of challenges when they're released. And one of them is employment. Let's get straight to it.
Yep.
So I wrote another book, believe it or not, and that is called it's called From Corrections to Careers, Today's Food Service Workforce. So the thing that I am always taken aback by, truthfully, is when I'm working in prisons, and I love the work. It is the most rewarding work. But the amount of, and currently right now, I'm only working in male incarcerated prisons. But one of the things that I think about often is when I'm out and I see the number of people who are incarcerated in a particular prison, the numbers are overwhelming. And that's where the real impact gets to me, which is I think about when I get to know them and talk to them, they're so talented. You cannot believe the talent.
Well, yeah,
And
is it ADHD, ADAD, these types of personalities, like, very high profile within, prison inmates? Like, it's a lot of them are they're just working, they're coloring outside of the lines trying to find a structure for them to be in. That's my understanding. I had somebody say that to me once, and it's like, "Well, that kinda makes sense because if you don't fit in with the norm and you're always trying to find a way to fit in with this norm, you're gonna get you can get caught easier in the backlash, right?"
Or I don't know shortfall statistics of that. I'm not surprised by that. But, when I see just incredible talent and they'll share that with me over the time that we're together when I'm training them. But the other thing is many of them are natural born leaders. And so just redirecting that in a positive way is really where they can have huge impact. So this book that I wrote about food service, because of my love for hospitality, is based on, I know that during COVID in particular, reason, so I'm always looking for a problem to solve, right? So during COVID, the hospitality, particularly food service, was hit so hard. And I was just heartbroken, to tell you the truth, because I love this business. And the interesting thing was I thought, you know what, maybe I could solve a problem here. So I wrote that book, and it's a curriculum as well. It's actually 7 months, not 6 months. And it is really designed for them to see, for those men or women who are working in a kitchen in prison, as to parlay that into a real career.
Yeah.
And so that's getting them ready for that career. And on the other hand, if employers are looking for, and if they become a second chance employers, and many food service and hotel operators are second chance employers, there is a plethora of really qualified people that could, fill those spots. And right now, the reason that's important to me for your employers is because our baby boomers are almost retired. So it's a
Mhm.
small percentage left that are still working, but that next generation, Generation X, doesn't have enough babies to fill the spot. It's a mathematical equation. So no matter how great you are as a leader, you can't fill your spots that way. Now, what you can do is retention, retention, retention to be able to work with millennials and Gen Zs to see this is a career option for you because many people start in hospitality. Maybe they worked in fast food or someplace and thought, okay, it's just a job until I get to the next thing.
Yeah.
But if they could see, what, there's no next thing, like this could be it would be amazing. I mean, that would be a way to impact community in a positive way.
And hospitality is slated to be one of the top growth industries globally for the next decade. And I love that you bring this up because we have a collision of events that are happening between 2020 and 2035 is the most I think that this world has ever shifted from when they were able to first light fire and get the boats across the water because we're shifting in the spaces that I work with, and I'm sitting here, I'm listening to all this. There's so many opportunities for creatives that you can be your own boss. You can do your own thing also. So there's a lot more opportunity out there than there was even 6 years ago. And it's because the world has shifted, in part due to AI, in part due to the pandemic getting us to all embrace technology. Um, but also the fluidity of be able to design something or create something. I'm a very firm believer that for every one person that stands up and speaks or creates, there's 10,000 people that want a piece of that creativity, wants a piece of that that dialogue. And if um, we go back to uh, the medieval ages, right? Before, we were really traveling or anything. One of the most valued human beings was the bard that went community to community, community and shared story. So I think that if we can get ahead of the situation, help those that are within the situation and empower them and tell them your story matters, you matter. There's a lot of people that just feel invisible. And I think what you're doing is amazing. Um, I'd love for you to share what is the reader's reward on this? And I love how you brought in the success mentoring and how it's not just about prisons, but there's a mentorship space here. And actually, if you're a baby boomer out there listening, I think Betty White proved that don't retire, step up and volunteer. There are literally seniors that are volunteering to tutor students online. There are seniors, and it's not about condemning. It's about stepping in, and it's not condemning or condoning. It is creating a network, and a lot of people don't have a network. And you can't make good choices if you're just sitting in a silo all by yourself. So I'd love for you to share with us the reader's reward in this.
So, regardless of who's listening, everyone deserves, and I'll say deserves a mentor. So, whether you're working, whether you're a high school student, wherever you are, and a lot of people are not thinking that way these days. I mean, I was very blessed to have some amazing mentors in my life, and I am so grateful because I wouldn't be the person I am today without them. And I would say that's the first thing. And then when you ask someone to be a mentor, I would say, know why you're asking them. What is it you see in them that you want for yourself that you can learn from? You really need to be prepared to have that conversation. And if they say no, I wouldn't take that badly. It means that they've actually thought about it. They don't have time, but there'll be somebody else who you can ask to be your mentor and you will get a yes for sure. I think you make a great point that regardless of who you are, maybe you've already kind of peaked there and you can be a mentor and give back. That's another one. But some of the new kind of approaches to mentorship today are really reverse mentorship, where a younger person is actually mentoring an older person or experienced person. So we can learn from each other. Certainly in the area of technology, younger people are just more adept. And so, but again, yeah, there's definitely something to be shared all of the time. I do have another book that I think is really important, and it's called Paving Your Path, What's Next for High School Graduate. And
Interesting.
even though I came from higher ed, you would think I would be pro university education. I'm not. I'm pro choice because university is not for everybody. There's so many other choices out there, vocational, the trade,
Absolutely.
military, owning our
And that you just hit a real, what is the name of that book again?
Paving Your Path, What's Next for High School Students. And it
Okay,
strips your book, same thing.
I'm going to get that cover art from you also because this you just hit on something that is so massive. We are short 4 million homes. 4 million homes just in Canada and or in North America. Or like we would have to build. Hold on one second. Sally, just 1 minute, hon. You're good. Give me just like 10 minutes. It's all right. We're going to edit that out. Um Right now, we have to quit stigmatizing trades. We have to get trades back into our high schools. You know why? Because a robot, and robots are coming, folks. Sorry, it is a fact. Watch what's going on. In the next 7 years, we will see robots in our grocery store stocking shelves. These are facts. But we're not going to see them cutting our hair, plumbing, checking our electrical. We're not going to see them creating culinary delights. So we need to stop thinking that sending your kid to a career that is going to be purged in the next decade, which is well, let's just call a spade a spade. The lawyers, what are they called? All the lawyers' assistants. What are they called? Do you know what that
I did until you asked me.
Oh, sorry. I know, folks, when you get 2 50-year-old women on the phone, this is what happens. But there are going to be fields that AI will completely replace.
Paralegal.
And paralegals actually right now there's a new AI that is being tested out and it can do like 10,000 hours worth of work so lawyers will be able to literally cut 50% of their paralegals within the next few years. So look where the opportunities are and I'm really excited because the opportunities are coming back to the creatives. So get out there, work in the field. I think actually your high school book and your correction book, we bring those two together and we give them to those kids that are in trouble that are trying to find a way. That there's a book, and I'm gonna challenge you with that because I think there's a lot of seeds between the 2.
Okay,
So
that's great.
so, my last and final question is around authorship. So everybody goes, "Well, I wanna do this, but how do I make a living at it? What is the viability of it?" Can you tell me one strategy that has helped you as a professional author, which you are at 9 books and going, what is one strategy that has helped you, maybe not necessarily sell books, but to generate revenue from the value of being a published author?
So I think that most people don't start writing a book thinking that way. I'll say that. Maybe they do, but I would found that I have not found that to be true. But what happens is if they're thinking about parlaying this into a business, then we have to think about what is the potential target audience, what would be the need, and then really are there companies that would help support that, whether it's the books or whether your book becomes a curriculum or you parlay the book into coaching. A lot of people do that today, certainly, or consulting. So there has to be something else other than the book to be able to build the business. I certainly was lucky enough to have a business coach who helped me turn my book into a business. Managed Kristen White, amazing. And to this day, I think back to our conversation, and she somehow had a view that I didn't have at the moment, And everything she said, and I've done the work. Let me say that I've done the work, but I will say that it has really materialized just like she.
Amazing. Amazing. We'll have to continue this conversation moving forward another time because I'd love to dive a bit more deep into. I love how you have turned a book into curriculum that then is now creating um, massive shifts for people. And I think that's really the power of a book is that, either A, it can become a dust collector or one of the 80% of books that are purchased and never cracked, or it can become a, living entity that creates change, and I love how you're doing that.
Thank you so much.
Kim, you're a rock star. I appreciate your time today, and, I'll definitely be reaching back out wanting to find more about that, how do you turn a book into curriculum? Because I think that'd be a great conversation.
It would be great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Thank you.